Hi kids, welcome to day 15 of our City of Ember read aloud. In the part we read last time, Lena and Dune and Poppy had made it to the new city. They are seeing some things they've never seen before, like grass, and they're feeling wind, and they're seeing stars and the moon, but they don't know what any of these things are because they didn't have any of those things in their underground city. So they're just starting to kind of explore and see what this new place is like. A little later, it seemed to her that her eyes were blurring. There was a fuzziness in the sky, especially around the edges. It took a while for her to realize what was making the fuzziness. Light, she said. I see it, said Dune. It's getting brighter. The edge of the sky turned gray and then pale orange and then deep fiery crimson. Crimson is like a dark red. The land stood out against it, a long, black, rolling line. One spot along this line grew so bright they could hardly look at it. So bright it seemed to take a bite out of the land. It rose higher and higher until they could see that it was a fiery circle, first deep orange and then yellow and too bright to look at any longer. So, of course, they're experiencing the sunrise here, seeing the sun for the very first time. The colors seeped out of the sky and washed over the land. Light sparkled on the soft hair of the hills, which was the grass, and shone through the lacy leaves as every shade of green sprang to life around them. They lifted their faces to the astonishing warmth. The sky arched over them higher than they could have imagined, a pale, clear blue. Lena felt as though a lid that had been on her all her life had been lifted off. Light and air rushed through her, making a song like the songs of Ember, only it was a song of joy. She looked at Dune and saw that he was smiling and crying at the same time, and she realized that she was too. Everything around them was springing to life. A glorious racket came from the branches. Tweedling notes, peeps, burbles, high, sharp calls. Bugs? Wondered Dune, imagining with awe the bugs that could make such sounds. But then he saw something fly from a cluster of leaves and swoop down low across the ground, making a clear, sweet call as it flew. Did you see that? He said to Lena, pointing. And there's another one, and there, repeated Poppy, leaping from Lena's lap and whirling around, pointing in every direction. The air was full of them now. They were much too large to be insects. One of them landed nearby on a stem. It looked at them with two bright black eyes, and opening its mouth, which was pointed like a thorn, sent forth a little trill. It's speaking to us, said Dune. What could it be? Lena just shook her head. The little creature shifted its claw-like feet on the stem, flapped its brown wings, and trilled again. Then it leapt into the air and was gone. They leapt up too and threw themselves into exploration. The ground was alive with insects, so many that Dune just laughed in helpless wonder. Flowers bloomed among the green blades, and a stream ran at the foot of the hill. They roamed over the green-coated slopes, running, sliding, calling out to each other with each new discovery until they were exhausted. Then they sat down by the entrance to the path to eat what was left of their food. They untied Dune's bundle, and suddenly Lena cried out, "The book! We forgot about the book!" There it was, wrapped in its blotched green cloth. "Let's read it while we eat," said Dune. Lena opened the fragile notebook and laid it on the ground in front of her. She picked up a carrot with one hand, and with the other she kept her place on the scribbled page. This is what she read. Chapter 20, The Last Message. All right, so here's the part that was written in the book, which is actually more like a journal. Friday. They tell us we leave tonight. I knew it would be soon. The training has been over for nearly a month now, but still it feels sudden. It feels like a shock. Why did I agree to do this? I'm an old woman, too tired to take up a new life. I wish now that I'd said no when they asked me. I've put everything I can into my one suitcase. Clothes, shoes, a good wind-up clock, some soap, an extra pair of glasses. Bring no books, they said, and no photographs. We have been told to say nothing ever again about the world we come from. But I'm going to take this notebook anyhow. I'm determined to write down what happens. Someday, someone will need to know. Saturday. I went to the train station yesterday evening as they told me to, and got on the train they told me to take. It took us through Spring Valley, and I gazed out the window at the fields and houses of the place I was saying goodbye to, my home and my family's home for generations. I rode for 2 hours until the train reached a station in the hills. When I arrived, they met me, 3 men in suits, and drove me to a large building where they led me down a corridor and into a big room full of other people, all with suitcases, most with gray or white hair. Here we have been waiting now for more than an hour. They have spent years and years making this plan. It's supposed to ensure that no matter what happens, people won't disappear from the earth. Some say that will never happen anyhow. I'm not so sure. Disaster seems very close. Everything will be all right, they tell us, but only a few people believe them. Why, if it's going to be all right, do we see it getting worse every day? And of course, this plan is proof that they think the world is doomed. All the best scientists and engineers have pulled in to work on it. Extraordinary efforts have been made, efforts that would have done more good elsewhere. I think it's the wrong answer, but they asked me if I would go, I suppose because I've spent my life on a farm and I know about growing food. In spite of my doubts, I said yes. I'm not sure why. There are 100 of us, 50 men and 50 women. We all are at least 60 years old. There will be 100 babies, too. 2 babies for each pair of parents. I don't know yet which one of these gentlemen I'll be matched with. We are all strangers to one another. They planned it that way. They said there would be fewer memories between us. They want us to forget everything about the lives we've led and the places we've lived. The babies must grow up with no knowledge of a world outside, so that they feel no sorrow for what they have lost. I hear some noises across the room. I think it's the babies arriving. Yes, here they come, each being carried by one of those gray-suited men. So many of them, and so small, little scrunched-up faces, tiny fists waving. I must stop for now. They're going to pass them out. Later. We're traveling again on a bus this time. It is night, I think, though it's hard to be sure because they have boarded up the windows of the bus from the outside. They don't want us to know where we're going. I have a baby on my lap, a girl. She has a bright pink face and no hair at all. Stanley, who sits next to me, holds a boy baby with brown skin and a few tufts of black hair. Stanley and I are the keepers of these children. Our task is to raise them in this new place we're going to. By the time they are 20 or so, we will be gone. They'll be on their own, making a new world. Stanley and I have named these children Star and Forest. So in case you haven't figured it out yet, the place they're going to is the City of Ember, this underground city where the builders believe that they will be safe from whatever disasters and plagues are going on in the real world. So this journal entry here is explaining how the people of Ember got there in the very first place, hundreds of years before. Sunday. The buses have stopped, but they have not allowed us to get out yet. I can hear crickets singing and smell the grass, so we must be in the country and it must be night. I'm very tired. What kind of place can this be, safe from earthly catastrophes? All I can guess is that it must be underground. The thought fills me with dread. I'll try to sleep a little now. Later. There was no chance of sleep. They called us off the buses, and we stepped out into a landscape of rolling hills in full moonlight. That's the way we'll be going in, they told us, pointing to a dark opening in the hill we stood on. Form a line there, please. By the way, this hole that they're going into, that's where Lena and Dune just came out of. Form a line there, please, and we did so. It was very quiet, except for the squalling of a few of the babies. If the others were like me, they were saying goodbye to the world. I reached down to touch the grass and breathed deeply to smell the earth. My eyes swept over the silver hills, and I thought of the animals prowling softly in the shadows or sleeping in their burrows, and the birds standing beneath the leaves of the trees with their heads tucked under their wings. Last, I raised my eyes to the moon, which smiled down on us from a long, cold distance away. The moon will still be here when they come out, I thought. The moon and the hills, at least. The opening led us into a winding passage that ran steeply downhill for perhaps a mile. It was hard going for me. My legs are not strong anymore. We moved very slowly. The last part was the worst, a rocky slope where it was easy to miss your footing and slip. This led down to a pool. By the shore of the pool, our group of aged pioneers gathered. Motorboats were waiting here for us, equipped with lanterns. When it's time for people to leave this place, is this the way they will come? I asked our pilot, who had a kind face. He said yes. But how will they know there's a way out if no one tells them? I said. How will they know what to do? There are going to be instructions, said the pilot. They won't be able to get at the instructions until the time is right, but when they need them, the instructions will be there. But what if they don't find them? What if they never come out again? I think they will. People have a way through just about anything. People find a way through just about anything. That was all he would say. I'm writing these notes while our pilot loads the boat. I hope he doesn't notice. It ends there, said Lena, looking up. He must have noticed, said Dune. Or she was afraid he would, so she decided to hide it instead of taking it with her. She must have hoped someone would find it. Just as we did, he pondered. But we might not have if it hadn't been for Poppy. No, and we wouldn't have known that we came from here. The fiery circle had moved up in the sky now, and the air was so warm that they took off their coats. Absently, June dug his finger into the ground, which was soft and crumbly. But what was the disaster that happened in this place, he said. It doesn't look ruined to me. It must have happened a long, long time ago, said Lena. I wonder if people still live here. They sat looking out over the hills, thinking of the woman who had written in the notebook. What had her city been like, Lena wondered. Like Ember in some way, she imagined. A city with trouble where people argued over solutions. A dying city. But it was hard to picture a city like Ember here in this bright, beautiful place. How could anyone have allowed such a place to be harmed? What do we do now? Asked Lena. She wrapped the notebook in its covering again and set it aside. We can't go back up the river and tell them all to come here. No, we could never make the boat go against that current. Are we here alone then? Forever? Maybe there's another way in. Some way that lets you walk down to Ember. Or maybe there's another river that runs the other way. We have candles now. We could cross the unknown regions if we found a way to get there. This was the only plan they could come up with. All right, so sorry, but I'm going to stop here for today. We'll continue next time. We're very close. Very close to the end of the book. See ya.